The world has been conquered by dragons. Only small bands of humans remain in a new reign. A reign of fire.
Mafia, wake up, wake up, wake up.
You have created a monster and it will destroy you.
Anyone else amazed at how big Matthew McConaughey was? Oh my goodness, that man. He used to be a monster.
He used to be a monster. I was a bit surprised by the bald head myself.
Yeah, that
was
too.
pretty impressive.
That too. I mean, this was right before Ghosts of Girlfriend's Past or whatever his other movies are.
With Renee.
With Renee.
I love Renee Zellweger in that movie. I love Renee.
Yes.
Welcome back to the Monsters vs. Men podcast, the bargain basement of the monster podcasting airways, where two friends try to stay alive and stay connected by chatting about weekly monster movies. This week, we are discussing Reign of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
With me is the American, formerly from Kentucky, but no longer, Alex.
Yes. Joined by the man still in Kentucky, but from multiple places. Eric. Well traveled, I guess you could say.
Well traveled. Yeah, man. Reign of Fire. It's an interesting one.
It's a movie.
You grew up watching this.
I did. I used to love this movie as a kid. It's yeah.
I mean, I guess you weren't like a kid, but I mean, you were like early high school.
No, this is middle school. I mean, this is 8th grade, man. 2002.
Dang.
Maybe.
Yeah. There's no reason that I shouldn't have seen this film.
Oh yeah.
No reason. I have no idea why I didn't see this film. Right? Like, there's nothing in it that makes me not see it. But like, I didn't, and I should have, because it was pretty fun.
Yeah,
I would have liked it.
It's one of those that you missed for some reason. I get that. I definitely have some movies kind of like that.
It's weird. It's a movie that I shouldn't have missed, but I did. I don't know. Probably in the middle of a move or something when it came out, so never saw it. But all right, let's get into it then, shall we?
Let's do it.
2002's Reign of Fire tells a different kind of post-apocalyptic tale. A post-apocalyptic tale where it's not zombies that have taken over the world, but dragons. Giant, fiery dragons. A monster in their own right, Reign of Fire doesn't pull punches. But does it give us a genuine giant monster movie, Alex?
I mean, technically, are there giant monsters? Yes, I think. I mean, dragons, no matter how big, seem to not fit in my mind as a giant monster, which makes zero sense when I think about it.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like dinosaurs not being classified as a giant monster in some ways.
Kind of, yeah.
I will say that the alpha in here is pretty intimidating, and he might qualify. Because when you see it, its overall size compared to the females, man, what a great moment.
Yeah.
It's like very shocking when you see how big it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned before, at least I think I did on here, maybe it was in M+, I'm not sure, that, like I was saying, I was a big fan of this. I think I talked a little bit more about it at one point, but when it came out in theaters, I saw this thing 3 times. 3 times. 2 of them were in the same day. Only a few movies got that treatment. Not all the movies I went and saw deserved that, to be fair. 8-Legged Freaks, you did deserve it, though, my friend. Now, that was then, and this is now. And I was genuinely concerned about watching this movie again, because this is one that I really reflect back on fondly. You know, were young Alex's tastes similar or very different from today? Or what I actually thought would maybe be the case here is that, you know, this movie has CGI. Has it aged horribly? And I am very happy and a little surprised to report that Rain of Fire manages to hold up in every way to me. Honestly, I'm a little flabbergasted that this came out in 2002. But what I really, really want to know, am I blinded by nostalgia, Eric? Or is this a pretty fun movie?
Well, it seems like you were kind of having a similar sort of feeling about it as I was having towards Brain Dead a couple of weeks ago. You know, a movie that I looked fondly on in high school, but just wasn't sure what it would be like rewatching it again in my mid-30s. So, real quick, to be honest, and to answer the question that I put in my introduction, if I had seen this when it came out, which, again, for whatever reason I didn't, I wouldn't have ever thought about classifying it as a giant monster film. But it's a fantasy film. I get that dragons can be considered giant monsters, but if that's the case, we might as well review Game of Thrones, Alex. However, with all that being said, I'm glad we are reviewing it as a 21st century giant monster film, which welcome to the series, by the way. We're revisiting some of our 21st century giant monster films in this series. I'm glad we're doing this because I really enjoyed this movie. It's refreshingly sincere compared to the too often cynicism infused self-ironic blockbuster fantasies that we get today. I mean, the premise of this film is completely off the wall and insane. Everything in this movie is at 100 miles per hour, and all the meaning is right there on the nose for the taking. But that's what I liked about it, honestly, Alex. If this were made in 2023, it would be a 10-episode series. But Reign of Fire, the movie, says, no, we're going to develop all these characters sincerely, turning enemies into allies in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. You're right. They do go from enemies to allies pretty quickly, and it is a little off-putting after McConaughey gets Christian Bale's Quinn's home completely annihilated with his negligence.
Oh, it's awesome. Let's get one thing straight. It's actually awesome.
It is a cool moment. It's a very cool moment. But after losing everything, I guess I could see like Quinn's just like, I have nothing to lose anymore. Let's just do this thing. And sure enough, now they're best buddies. And they're totally simpatico. You know, I mean, the plants are gone. The home is gone. They already mentioned that it was going to be rough anyway. Now it's like, well, you got nothing to lose by just going out and trying to kill all of these things.
Yep.
And so if the dragons aren't gone, people are gone. I mean, they lose everything in this movie. But I do like that they have some sort of weird middle ground within 5 minutes. And it's, you know, useful that they're able to work together because it's a pretty cool final encounter. And I will say, though, I really like how the characters are done here. Yes, we do have the admittedly rushed allies.
Yeah.
But the characters are fun. Like, they're hard, but they're kind of soft as well. Like, Van Zan, even while saying rousing speeches or speaking about fallen comrades, he's like an incredibly worn down man. He has tears in his eyes, even when he's giving these speeches, talking about anything, really. Like 80% of the movie, he's crying. He's got tears in his eyes. Yet, his voice never wavers or falters. And I think this may sound silly, but this film is a really strange showcase for Matthew McConaughey, which feels like a very strange thing considering his catalog of films. But I think he does a really great job acting.
No, you're not going to hear arguments from me there, man. That's what I'm saying. It's all so sincere. Like, yeah, it's all so sincere. Look, so from a rational point of view, that last point that I made about it being rushed would normally be my main criticism of the film. And yet that rational criticism is for some reason why the movie feels so fresh. I mean, rationally, Quinn would never develop like he does. He reveals all about himself incredibly quickly, wears his emotions and his backstory on his sleeve. His relationship with Van Zandt and Alex grows so quickly, you have to do double takes, right? Here's the great part. Here's what I like. Van Zandt and Alex reciprocate that openness and encourage it. With Van Zandt, which I've said about 3 different ways now, even telling Quinn as he stares into the abyss and dreams of his backstory in the shaft, use it. Right? Like, it's the hero's journey. This is a hero's journey movie with a few twists along the way. It's a mythological tale full of kings, knights, and angels.
Yeah, dude. It's cool. It's just, and the thing is that Van Zandt doesn't even know what happened. He just knows something important.
Yeah,
right?
He has no idea. He just used it.
But he could tell. Yeah, he could just tell Quinn's like feeling something. And you know, Van Zandt's been there 100 times. Yeah. It's just cool. And the thing about the film is, like you said, everything is so earnest. Like, the overall story is, while completely ridiculous and similar to another movie we kind of watched, it admittedly came out like last year, Troll on Netflix. Its overall story is actually interesting, and I think it really plays out in some cool ways, like with its world building and everything else. But for me, it's that world building that really sells a lot of this film for me. Even though there's a lot of great acting and effects and everything, like that moment when they're rolling up to London, and there's a question on some people's mind on whether it was a nuke that destroyed everything around them, or what was it? And he says, it was a dragon. And the Archangels moment and how the regiment works when they're jumping out of the chopper to take down a dragon. It's such a cool, tense moment. Like, it's hard to believe this worked probably several times.
Yeah. There's like, we're gonna go for it. Like, and they did. No one has the guts to do something like that anymore, right? Like, what would be a cool idea? Let's attack a dragon by parachuting off of a helicopter. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. And then they actually tried it. Right? It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
like it's everything is too safe nowadays. What happened in 2002 when we jumped out of helicopters to kill dragons, Alex?
Yeah, the whole plan is just to nab this thing's wings. And it's just like, it's completely ridiculous, but it's such an awesome moment. And it is so tense. And what's really cool about this movie, it is PG-13. But there are some moments where you're like, that was kind of brutal. But they get away with it with clever things like showing the radar blip going down really fast and then just slamming it to the ground. You don't ever see the guy hit the ground, but that, you're like, when you see that happen, you're like, oh,
for sure.
Like, pretty, like I love those moments. It's just so cool. But like you said, there's an element here of not playing things safe and really giving this movie everything, which is, like you say, it's just what's so charming and impressive about it. I do think the only lore thing that I'm not crazy about is that the dragons eat ash, because why wouldn't they have burnt down the field already to eat it if that's what they eat? So that part didn't really make sense for me, but everything else is wonderful world building. I just had so much fun with this film. I think it's a pretty easy recommend for me for a lot of people. Yeah. And it's one that I think probably a lot of people missed.
Yeah. So to get into the themes a little bit, Alex, one of the themes I enjoyed in this film is the push and pull between staying and going, between safety and risk, proactivity and reactivity, shelter and fight. What is the best strategy when the world makes your people into a minority? Do you retreat in isolation, or do you fight back? And really, this is the back and forth between our characters here, of course. And it's seen most clearly in Quinn and Van Zandt. It's a religious tale, in a lot of ways, some obvious and some more subtle. But if you can believe anything, like that's I mean, more subtle. If you can believe anything in this film can be subtle, Alex. I like that angle of what we got here quite a bit. There's some interesting ideas actually happening in the background of this movie. It's not too hard to see. They're not trying to like do anything like under the radar here, but man, it all works together pretty well. And I think it comes back to what you said, which is the world building. This movie doesn't work. The themes don't work if you don't have a world that, despite its outlandish premise, is still somehow believable.
Yeah. And that's really what a lot of it comes down to, I think, for what makes it special. But, Eric.
Yeah.
What we got going on at MVM Plus this week?
MVM Plus, Alex. Well, it's been a week since we last talked on MVM Plus, and we have to see if I've caught up on those episodes like I promised that I would.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear.
Check that, and you'll have to give us. I hope you've seen Guardians, but we'll see.
I haven't seen it by the recording. Nope.
My gosh, you have. Oh man. Well, we're just gonna get into a whole lot of shenanigans. We'll probably talk Rain of Fire. Probably have a lot of inside jokes, and probably ruin the surprise of podcasting forever over at patreon.com/MVM pod. Become a bargain basement at patreon.com/MVM pod and support the show. Let's get into our awards though, Alex. Compelling character award. Who'd you have?
How do you give it to that dad? We all know who I'm talking about, right? The dad who has already lost kids. Then he goes out to the fields to try to leave and harvest some crops. Then he loses another kid. And then he comes back. And then he goes back out with Van Zandt, only to get completely wiped out with one swoop. like in all seriousness, I do think his character is a really interesting illustration of someone who, I mean, very poor decision making, but it's really showing the desperation of the times, right? How fractured people are becoming and how they're willing to put a lot of people in danger, even their own family, to try to make it in this world. And eventually it becomes more of something about revenge for him. Mm-hmm. And that's what ends up getting him killed.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, though, Alex. That's interesting about this film. And it's Quinn's struggle, too, right? But you see it encompassed just a little bit ahead of time with that dad. What is the best way to protect your family? Is it to shelter in place? Or is it to leave? Very interesting. My compelling character award is Van Zandt. That guy's crazy, just like his name, bro. I mean, come on. You don't just take an axe and jump at a dragon and kill yourself if you're not just a little bit crazy. But he's also, I mean, it's his edge that makes him interesting. It's what makes him kind of hated at first by Quinn, but also makes him this leader, you know. I also just love the fact, you know, this movie, again, in its sincerity, just does some really fun, like, comeback arounds, you know, like the part where Van Zandt is like, you know, they're having the argument with Clint at the beginning. He's like, I lead and you follow. Yes. And then at the end, you know, he tells Quinn, you lead, we'll follow. And then he ends up still taking the reins and telling everybody what to do.
Yeah.
You can't help it, but it's just funny. The film does several moments like that completely unironically, and I love it.
You know, there was something about this film that I didn't, so for some reason, despite seeing it like 3 times back when I was a kid, I didn't pick up on. I always remembered Matthew McConaughey's character kind of just biting the dust for no reason. But when I watched it again, I was like, oh no, that's definitely not the case. Like, he's the whole reason the dragon gets grounded. Now, the film doesn't really, I don't think, illustrate it maybe quite enough. that the dragon is wounded. Like, yes, we see it happen, but it's kind of off in the distance, and you have to pay attention to the details of the dragon to see that it's wounded. And it was always a suicide mission for Van Zandt to go up there. Yeah, and so,
for sure.
I gotta say, great moment. Anyway, Eric, what about your most memorable line award?
Well, it goes to Van Zandt, of course. And it's during his speech. Well, he's coming into the speech during the celebration, and he says, "Envy the country that has heroes, huh? I pity the country that needs them."
Yeah. I pity the country that needs them. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so
great.
Good.
Great. What about you?
This is another Van Zandt line. Like, he's trying to get them to just, like, get out. He says, "Look out the window. Eden isn't burning, it's burnt."
That's another great line. I mean, does he have a line that's not great in this movie?
No. Not a single
What about your can't believe the acting award, Alex?
I gotta give it to Matthew McConaughey as Van Zandt. He does again.
Well, you stole mine because I was trying to go for all Matthew McConaughey Van Zandts here, but all right, continue.
Yeah, I mean, he just knocks it out of the park. Like I said earlier, like, this man has tears in his eyes 80% of the film, but he still is talking with a completely not stoic. He's very emotional, but with a very level voice when he's speaking. And I think this is actually a really great Matthew McConaughey showcase.
Yeah.
Which just feels ridiculous about a movie that dragons crawl out of London.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric?
I'm going to go with Isabella Scorupco, who plays Alex here. I like how she, at the end, I think she showcases her performance very much until the end of the film, when she's like actually terrified. She's like not in her element, and she's actually terrified at the end. There's an interesting sort of shift in her that I was impressed by, where at first you're just like, who is this random person that kind of looks like Margot Robbie, right? Like before she was a thing. But actually showcases her acting in that fear at the end of the film. And so, because you already took Van Zandt, and I'm not going to go with Christian Bale, I've got to go with Isabella Scorupco.
Right. I think she's a good pick.
Yep. Christian Bale's good too. Right. I'm not saying he's not.
He is, and you know what? Little shout out to a little somebody who I think everybody forgets about. Little Gerard Butler's Creedy, who gets a surprising demise.
Yeah,
like, it's very sudden when he gets killed. Sudden.
Yeah, he walks out and gets crispy real quick.
Yeah, like you feel like he's probably in jeopardy.
Yeah.
But you don't expect it to happen
right in front of everybody.
When it does. Yeah.
But again, again though, like, that's just something in this film where, in another movie it would have happened later, but here it's just like, no, we're gonna let it happen right here,
right in front of everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What about your that's a good shot award, Alex?
I gotta give it to the giant dragon reveal. They're sitting outside of London. They see all these like hundreds of dragons just swarming around. It seems like impossible to get it, and then you see the big one come, and it's like it's just a silhouette with all the fog around it. Mm-hmm. I think it's just really cool imagery before it like kind of reveals itself a bit more.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What about you, Eric?
Good. So mine goes to the Van Zandt suicide jump.
It has to be. That's what I was gonna put.
I mean, there are some other good shots, but I mean, come on, that one's epic. You're just gonna remember that one for sure.
It also includes probably the most screen.
Yeah.
But somehow it
might
awesome.
Technically be the worst shot, but it's the best shot. Let's be honest.
Now, Eric, what do you have for your unique award?
So I mentioned how they like to bring things back around. I liked the bringing back around when Quinn says he's quoting Creedy here, when they seem outnumbered at the end versus the dragons. He says, "Look at the bright side," again, which is what Creedy had said to him earlier on, and Quinn is kind of portrayed as this pessimist of a character. And so it's funny to and Creedy was the optimist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to see him bringing back around Creedy's line. It's a subtle touch to Creedy. It's a nice tie back. You gotta love some of those sincere tie back arounds.
Yeah. There is several. Now,
Yeah.
my award goes to something that I thought was really impressive. The story that Creedy and Quinn are crafting. This is most original story award. Whatever I just wanted to see the rest of this story that they created for these children, where there's like this light dark dynamic and someone's dad.
Yeah,
I was captivated.
That. Yeah, they should make a movie about that.
They should.
Like whoever wrote this story, whoever wrote this movie should really create a spin-off of that scene.
Yeah, and like what I think would be really good is like really make it really good. And then just drive it into the ground.
I bet Disney would be interested in something like that, Alex.
Ooh, that does sound like something they'd like to do.
Well, let's get into our final thoughts and tiered rating. I'll go ahead and start. So for me, Rain of Fire is something I should have seen long ago. I think it's incredibly sincere, incredibly refreshing. I would recommend this to just about anyone, honestly. And I tell you what I find funny about it and what I find interesting is I think films like this, though, is some of the things that we see today being released. And I know I become this curmudgeon sometimes when we start talking about Hollywood blockbusters today. I know. But everything is kind of, we look at everything with a 10-foot pole, right? And it's like there has to be this sense of irony because nobody wants to be sincere anymore, right?
Oh, right.
And so everything has to be full of irony in all of our films. In our fantasy films, we're going to put a bunch of irony in here, just so you know that we're not taking ourselves too seriously. Because if we take ourselves too seriously, it's not cool anymore, right? Like that's how every film feels nowadays. But this film completely does the opposite. It's like, I don't care what anybody thinks, right? We're going to be sincere because this story is cool and it's just simple and it's the hero's journey and it doesn't matter, right? Like it's going to be fun even without that irony. Like the backlash to films like this is what's created the films that we see with all that irony. It's like someone looked at this film and was like, cringe. I'm going to make a film where we're really self-aware and we can laugh at ourselves the whole time, which don't get me wrong. There's some films that do that really well, but we don't need every single film to do that. We need films that are willing to be more sincere and more just tell us outlandish story with no apologies. We get that with Rain of Fire. I think it's a Godzilla tier film.
It feels like it.
My speech there made it seem like it. Everything that I've said about this film makes it seem like it. But I mean, I don't think this is like a transcendent film in a way. Like I'm not like looking at this and thinking it's incredibly groundbreaking in terms of its CGI, though it does hold up, like you mentioned. Right?
Oh my God. I can't believe how well it holds up. It's better than a lot of stuff even now.
Yes. Like CGI has not progressed in 20 years, Alex. Like
it turns out
like it really hasn't, right? Unless you're James Cameron. Okay. Everybody else, no one can do it. No one can do it. Right? Like they did. Right? Seriously.
Apparently.
So but it's not incredibly groundbreaking in terms of the effects, right? It's really good effects. It's not groundbreaking in terms of the story, though. As I said, I like the story a lot. It doesn't have any incredibly sophisticated meaning, though I think there are some interesting themes here. This is just that film that I would recommend. I really enjoy, and it just fits right at the top of my Gamera tier. I think it's a good film. It may not be at that greatest level but it doesn't matter. It's a really good film that I would recommend to just about anyone.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I'm a little surprised at how high you are on it. I'm thrilled.
You liked my passionate
yeah,
plea
your passionate
for
high camera tier.
Rain of Fire. Yeah.
Yeah. But everything you said, I'm right there with you. It's refreshing. I want a goofy story told seriously.
Yes.
Sometimes, like you said, I don't need the tongue in my cheek all the time. It's fun, like you said, in certain situations, but not everything has to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that's one of the reasons why this is, like you said, so refreshing. Not only that, but there's a lot of shock here. Wonderfully acted characters, really tense moments. That final battle is cool, really fun, planned out. It ends kind of abruptly,
yeah.
but it's been built up to for a while, so it's kind of okay. But overall, like, I just think that the world building here really even elevates the film even more and just gives us some pretty haunting and grim scenarios for our team. I really like this film from like top to bottom. I have almost nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like you, Eric. Not that I'm pretentious like you, but it's like but what I mean is, like, I know that you can enjoy a Hollywood blockbuster, and then in the back of your mind, you're going, even though I liked every single thing about this, is it a Godzilla tier?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm feeling. I'm like, is it? Even though I don't really have a complaint about the film. And so as I say that out loud, I think I realize that maybe it is a low Godzilla tier for me.
I love it.
Because I can't complain about anything.
There you go.
I was thrilled about the entire film.
That's awesome.
And I can't believe how much fun I had. I was like captivated. My phone was not going to be looked at while I was watching this. Like, I'm going to give it a low Godzilla tier. And I'm going to see how I feel over the weeks. By the time we do another recap, see if it still sits there. Yeah. But right now, it is sitting higher than I would have ever imagined.
I like it. No, I like it, Alex. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Next week, we go in a different direction with Annihilation. Will it meet our specification, Alex? Or will we not feel the exhilaration?
I just hope that when we watch Annihilation that we feel some sort of elation. And that I wonder if it's all about creation. I don't know. Here we go.
Ooh, as always, thank you for listening to Monsters vs. Men, where every once in a while, Alex has a nice rhyme. Leave us feedback. Once every 100 episodes. Leave us feedback on this episode at mvmpod.com or email us mvmpod@gmail.com. You can also follow us and message us on Twitter and Instagram at mvm_pod. Become a bargain basement at patreon.com/mvmpod and receive weekly bonus content, including special reviews, interviews, and host chats. If you can't join at this time, a review or share always helps. Monsters vs. Men is produced by Alex Cornett. Executive producers are Kevin Alexander, Faye Basier, John Freeman, and Michael Herndon. Special thanks to our wives, Common Rock Band for PlayStation 3, which forms Cell Block B, Louis Loops, Senior Honda, Drew the Collector, our Instagram connector, and you, the listener, for listening. Until next time, don't
forget to take credit for that movie you saw 20 years ago.
And try to stay alive.
Mafia, wake up, wake up, wake up.
You have created a monster and it will destroy you.
The monster. Whoops, that was wrong.